Hey friends, welcome back. Thanks so much for joining us. I'm very excited to have on the line David Smith, a personal friend of David Morgan and senior analyst and regular contributor at the Morgan Report. And he's also the co-author of a new book, Second Chance, How to Make and Keep Big Money from this coming gold and silver shockwave. David, welcome.
It's good to see you today, Sean. How are you doing?
Hey, it's great to have you, man. I've never spoken with you in person before. I know you and David are close partners there at the Morgan Report. Been working with each other for decades, and we're going to talk about your new book. But first, I want to ask you: did you see that incredible news item the other day? An impulsive thief, and a very bad one. Well, he got away with it so far. Maybe he's not that bad. Stole $1.6 million worth of gold in a bucket in New York City from what I'm calling Loomis Not So Armored.
I did see that, Sean, and I sent the link to David Morgan, who is in Stockholm right now doing some research. And I'm trying to remember how I phrased it to him. I think I said something like, a flake steals gold flakes from a flaky guard.
Yeah, you know what's funny? I got to say, though, I mean, can you even imagine a Loomis armored truck pulling up to, say, a Wells Fargo or your local bank filled with fiat cash, and they're not being armed guards? And here's a case where it's like, oh, it's $1.6 million worth of gold. We'll just leave the back of the truck open, and we won't have a guard there.
It's amazing. I guess he went to the front of the car to get his cell phone, but I wonder if this guy realized what he had when he was lugging it down the street. The article said it took him an hour to do the distance that would normally take 10 minutes. So apparently it didn't occasion any attention from anybody else.
Well, that's what's stunning. And if you watch any of the surveillance video, this guy trying to get away, he has to take breaks because the bucket's so damn heavy, unlike a bucket of fiat worth $1.6 million. But $1.6 million worth of physical gold, real money weighs a lot.
Not bad for an hour's work.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to get away with it. Talk about an impulsive thief. No mask, no nothing. They have him all over. It's all over the internet. You can see pictures of this guy, which I'll put here in the video. David, let me ask you this. Did you think that we would be back at $1,162 gold even a month ago? I mean, seeing the money printing around the globe, everywhere from Japan to the hyperinflation in Venezuela to our own problems here with $20 trillion in debt.
I guess I would say to that yes and no, Sean. No in the standpoint of all the optimism we saw earlier in this year, but yes, because people take a long time to really get it. And you know the old story about how things change slowly and then suddenly they move more quickly and then they move with a rush. And I think that's the way it'll be. And I'm really wondering if maybe we won't get another wake up come January here like we did January this year. I remember watching the charts on January 19th of 2016 and being disbelieving at seeing some of the mining stocks that I owned making new lows on the day and then closing higher intraday, and that was the absolute low for that final blow-off move. And I think we may see something similar to that over the next 6 weeks or so, very possibility.
Why the next 6 weeks, David? It just seems like this is never going to end. This beatdown is just never going to end.
You know, Sean, I want to say something to our listeners so that they don't think that there's some of us out there that just kind of skate on this thing and we add positions easily in that. Everybody that's involved in this market, you and I and everyone else, I've never met anyone that said it was easy to hold on or to buy and add positions when everybody around you is bearish. But that is the way to make significant money and hang on to it. You have to go against your emotions and go with the tea leaves that you're reading. You're not always going to be right, and you shouldn't be plunging. You should buy, as Stu Thompson of Graceland Updates likes to say, buy less than is rational. And I did some of that yesterday. I still have more funds to contribute, but when I see something that is the price where I want it, or I've got a bid that's been down there for a month and it's hit, I'm happy to take that bid. And I think if you do that, then when the market turns around, you'll be amazed at how fast you feel the difference. But you just can't go on your emotions and the rest of the herd, or you will be left behind. And so I think the next couple, 3 weeks, we're all being distracted with the holiday season and with the new president-elect and all the things that he's working on with his cabinet, good or bad. And I think it takes a while for that kind of the good feeling to wear off and get into January. And then January will be a pivotal month, I believe, for the stock market for the rest of the year and also for gold and silver. And if they act the way we anticipate they might, with a real strengthening surprise, it may not be as strong as last January, but I think it will surprise to the upside in spite of where we are, which, by the way, this retracement is not out of line from a standpoint from what you would expect to see after a very large rally that we saw for 7 months this year.
Okay. All right. Well, let me ask you this. One of the stories I'm keeping my eye on and I'm going to continue to follow is this war on cash, which is now broken out in earnest thanks to Modi in India, taking the actual physical cash out of the hands of the people, which can serve only the elite as far as I can see. Of course, he's saying this is our chance to enter the digital age. Most of those folks in India live on what, $1 a day? I mean, cash would probably be nice. Many of them don't have bank accounts. They certainly don't have credit cards. What's going on here with this war on cash, and how quickly can we see it, and how quickly do you think it's going to come to our shores? Because I think it's coming. Larry Summers would like it to come. He wants to ban the $100 bill.
This is really true. And I think, Sean, how quickly it will come, and it's on the way, will be determined in part by how the Indians respond to this. It took my breath away when this was announced less than 2 weeks ago, because about 90% of the exchange that takes place in the Indian society is in cash. And I read one article that I like the way they said it. They said this is trickle-down poverty. So it will make the wealthy less wealthy, but it will devastate the middle and lower class in India. How the Indian citizens respond to this will determine how fast it's attempted in the United States. And we may very well see something like this, a Sunday night. And I think the hundreds will be attacked, and maybe the 50s as well, too. That would put us in alignment with many other currencies in the world, where the largest amount that you have is about $15 or $20. I think in China, the yuan is the largest denomination, is about $8 there. And you know, what's interesting on this, Sean, is that the $100 bill that might be in your and my pocket will buy about what a $20 bill bought in 1965. So it's really about smoke and mirrors. It has nothing to do about the war on drugs or getting rid of black money. It has to do with funneling more money into the deep state, whether that's in India or the United States or a European country. And it has to do with the diminution of privacy and freedom by the law-abiding citizens, where you become guilty until proven innocent rather than innocent until proven guilty, which are jurisprudence on its head.
Yeah, okay, that's exactly my feelings on this thing. And, you know, I've been making the point here recently. I don't know if you've been following Pizzagate, but I made the point to Dave Kranzler that the New World Order is Pizzagate. Well, what does that mean? It means that the New World Order that George Bush Sr. talked about more than 200 times as president represents everything for the elite and nothing for we the people. There will be no rule of law, no justice for us. They use their justice system against us and to protect themselves. It means a cashless society where they can turn off your chip and turn off your digital money if they don't like your politics. They can turn you into a serf in a heartbeat. It means 12 perversions made legal by the U.S. Department of Justice, which according to Tom DeLay is in the works. It means everything for the elite and nothing for we the people. And I hope that the Indian people revolt, because clearly what's going on with banning cash is not for the people, it's for the bankers. And they're going to sell it to people in this country, David, under the guise of curbing criminality, under the guise of curbing drug trafficking, as you just mentioned. And it's all a lie. What they want to do is they want to control the people, and the bankers will have all the control once they take our money.
This kind of behavior is absolutely destructive to the social cohesion of a society that tries to implement it. And you're exactly right, Sean. And you know, this is not going to go into a good place. It's a closed system that only benefits the privileged class. The only opening is where the funds from the rest of us go into the system for the perpetuation and the extension of that power and wealth. None of it comes back out, or very little. It reminds me, I've been to Mexico a number of times looking at mining properties for David Morgan in the Morgan Report. And I've been to several places where you're out and the roads are very, you can hardly drive on them. They're so full of potholes and whatnot. And what will happen is, a few months before a particular election, the locals will start building a road toward one of these communities where they want the votes. And they'll start paving it and cleaning out the potholes and whatnot. The day after the vote is taken, the production stops. The road is not moved forward another foot until the next election. And I've seen it over and over again, and it's so obvious you would think even the dullest person could sit there and figure it out, whether it's an American citizen or a citizen somewhere in a Latin American country. But for some reason, they just don't see it yet.
All right. Well, you mentioned mining stocks. Read the tea leaves for us and tell us where you think mining stocks are going here in the future. We saw a great run-up earlier in the year, of course. I mean, really a historic run-up to some extent. We've seen 40, 50, 60% pullbacks in some of these stocks, which is ironic as we watch the Dow propaganda average and the Nasdaq and the S&P soar to all-time highs. We see these mining stock companies get beat up again as gold and silver get beat up and manipulated by the bankers. So what do you see? What's your forecast for mining companies in the near term and the long term? Because I continue to look at that Rothschild Economist magazine from 1988, which said get ready for a global currency in 2018. I don't think the dollar is going to be around forever. I know a lot of people don't agree with that, but I don't think it is. So where are we headed with mining stocks?
Most of the analysts that I've been reading lately, Sean, especially a few weeks, have been looking at indices, and they haven't spent much time looking at individual stocks. What I've noticed is that the better quality miners, the streamers, the producers that have lowered their all-in sustaining costs, these companies have not only, in many cases, not always, but many cases have declined less than many other stocks that the indices would imply, but also they have bounced sharply from their lows. And so there's a selectivity taking place where the better stocks are building good bases. They decline less when the others decline more. And some of them are actually in modest uptrends. So I think selectivity is the key. I think the indices, when they find sharply, and I would anticipate over the next 4 to 6 weeks that the surprise will be on the upside. If we see a breaking of the recent lows where people are $1 silver and about 11.25, say 11.25 gold, the markets like to fake people out and put in bear traps where they flush out the last of the weak hands. And so if we see new lows, the key will be to see how quickly those lows are erased and you go back up into a situation where the candlestick people call a bullish hammer. And I think that can and will happen. So the thing is not to try to predict that, but to react to it if and when it happens. And that way you get yourself positioned properly rather than going all day thinking that it might happen. Let's see if it happens. The rest of your funds when that takes place, when the market has proven to you that you were right in anticipating that.
All right. Guys, we're getting a couple of dropouts here, so we turned off David's video hoping that would help. So apologies here for just a couple of dropouts. David, if this continues, we'll hang up. I'll call you back. But this is a great segue to your book that you've co-written with David Morgan called Second Chance, How to Make and Keep Big Money from the Coming Gold and Silver Shockwave. It all ties together. How do we do it? How do we make and keep big money from this coming shockwave? And what is the shockwave? How high are we going with precious metals?
Well, the actual price, which could be almost anyone's guess, I do believe, and David believes as well too, that we will hit new nominal highs and eventually inflation-adjusted highs for gold and silver. The point is not to focus on a certain high point, which could be, $5,000 to $10,000 for gold. It's conceivable, perhaps a couple $100 or more for silver, but rather to anticipate and watch the building of the trend. So David always recommends that you get a base position of physical gold and silver, and then with money that you have that is looking after insurance versus profit, put it into the mining stocks because they will rise several times faster and higher than the physical metal itself. The metal is your insurance, and you will probably make good money on it, but the mining stocks are for the profit piece where you attempt to make a lot of money, but you need to look at it and control the fear and greed. And that's what our book does. It spends a lot of time analyzing how you can operate the exact opposite the way, not only in the accumulation phase, but in the selling some of your satellite positions phase as the market moves higher and holding on to the core, but then also having a plan for getting out with most of your money while most people ride it to the top and then all the way down again. And that's what most people do. They did it in the 2000 dot-com mania. They did it in the last bull market in 1980, which to some extent David and I did as young investors in that, and we're trying to avoid it. But that's the key thing, and that's one of the things that our book talks about is how to keep most of that money. Most books just tell you how to make it. A lot of people are going to make money, big money, but they're going to give most of it back, and that's what we're trying to anticipate and help readers avoid.
All right, before I let you go, just one final thought here, and I want your opinion on it. For those listeners who are a lot like me, who look at physical precious metals as something that's a joy to purchase because it's a real asset, you tuck it away and you forget about it. The day-to-day prices that we see from the comics, New York City, these manipulated paper prices, I really don't care about because I'm playing the long game. I want to protect wealth in the long game, which again takes me back to that 2018 prediction by the Rothschild's Economist magazine, get ready for a world currency. So here's the question. If we look at what's happening in Venezuela, people with precious metals are able to take advantage of the hyperinflation by probably paying down debt, by being able to trade silver and gold for way more bolivars, way more of the local currency to pay down existing debt. That's one thing they can do. The other thing they can do is survive, because I've heard 1 ounce of silver will buy 4 to 5, maybe 6 months of food in Venezuela. So that's one scenario. The other scenario that I want to share with you, and I mentioned earlier, is if they take cash away from the people. I've got a thesis here that is the only people that will have wealth left in the world are the elite who own physical silver and gold. And when I say the elite, I'm talking to the listeners. You're the less than 1% guys. If you have physical silver and gold, there may be a future in which you are the elite, because everybody else is going to get wiped out. Your thoughts on what's happening in Venezuela, and your thoughts on where we go in this long game in terms of the dollar.
I agree with everything you just posited there, Sean. And I think of the risk-reward ratio. We always talk about gold and silver physical as being insurance, and it is. And so the risk on the downside, if you believe at all what we talk about of the potential on the upside, is a phenomenal risk-reward. So the risk is very well defined, and the reward could be off the charts. And even beyond that, if you look, like you say, at Venezuela, and if you look at the destruction of the peso a number of times in Mexico, I spend time in Argentina every year, and I was there just the day after a 25% devaluation, when the dollars in my pocket bought 25% more in exchange for the peso than was been the case the day before, and everybody around me was able to buy 25% less. And I put a 1/10 of an ounce round in the hands of a fishing guide, or someone in the taxi driver, or in a restaurant, which, by the way, they won't take credit cards. They take only cash, unstable. And when you see the look on their face, they know what it is. In Argentina, the term comes from argentum, the silver, and people that the money that has withstood destruction for 5,000 years will do it again. And you don't have to mortgage your house. You just have to have a small amount of gold and silver and junk silver in silver rounds and fractional ounces of gold, and just tuck that away someplace and don't tell people that you have it, and just keep it and think of it as money. It's not an expense like you bought a car or you bought a pair of boots or something like that. And if people are willing and able to acquire gold and silver at very favorable prices, or add to what they already have in this area, I think that the time will come when they will be very, very glad that they did. You're not going to have time to go out and get it when you need it. You need it now. So hopefully people will take advantage of this, and they will not be like the other 96% of the population who haven't done anything, who will be standing in long lines trying to get it when the time comes. And if they can get it, they will pay massively premium and actual price, and they may not be able to get it at all.
All right. And David, how do we get the new book? Of course, I have a copy of the Silver Manifesto. Really great book, guys. You can get that right off the website. I'd imagine the same is true with Second Chance. Can they get that right at themorganreport.com?
Yes, there's the link that we have that will take you to the Morgan Report. And if you go to the book secondchance.com, you can see it there, and it will take you either to Lulu for the publisher, or you can see it on Amazon. It's available book, hardback, and softcover. And they can also write, if they have any issues with this at all, they can write to me at dsmith622@gmail to help them do their fulfillment if for some reason they can't get it from another source.
All right, cool. Guys, support the good guys in the world, right? Support David Smith, David Morgan. Get a copy of Second Chance, How to Make and Keep Big Money from the Coming Gold and Silver Shockwave. Maybe buy 2 or 3, give them away as Christmas gifts. It is the holiday season. Really makes me feel happy. I love Christmas.
It really is, and I think if our listeners express gratitude, not just at this time of the year, but all year long, being grateful for what we have and the opportunities that we have. Dr. Joe Dispenza used to say, if you express gratitude, it's already happened. So be grateful for what you have and what you're going to have, and be of service to others, and the service come back to you.
Amen. Well said. David, it was a real pleasure to speak with you. Thanks for your time.
Very much. The same with you, Sean. Take care.
Take care, sir. And guys, thanks so much for tuning in. We very, very much appreciate your support. And you can find real news 24/7, the kind of news that the Washington Post calls fake news. And you can find it at sgtreport.com. All day long, every day. We have a team of 3 that work day and night to serve you real news, truthful news, the antidote to corporate propaganda. Thanks for your support. And check us out at thephaser.com and thelibertymill.com as well. God bless.
There are very twisted, very sinister people that work in concert behind the scenes to perpetuate a very disturbing, very immoral, and downright evil agenda. And we as a humanity need to stop this. It is literally in our hands.